Time is the measure of period between two events. It's an elapsed time that we know. You can measure by second, hour, minute, what you want. We are in a modern era. Everything that we want is at our fingerstep. But let's look at how people used to measure the time. A natural way of measuring time was sundial. Sundial would be used for measuring time. Actually, they would keep this equipment and the shadow moving from the morning to the evening. Various measurements started at that time. You have a candle, burn the candle, mark behind the candle. As the candle burns down, the marks will tell you unit of time passed. One that we all know from our childhood days is the hourglass. You load the hourglass with sand, and then the time taken for the sand to come down is 1 hour. The first mechanical clock came very, very long back, thousands of years back, as water clock. This is one of the most brilliant ideas and thoughts that occurred to some intelligent people at that time. This is the first mechanical clock which was invented. Anything that moves can be used to move something else. Absolutely brilliant idea. Pendulum clock is almost a very modern evolution of the timekeeping device. How does the pendulum move? 0 plus 0 minus 0 plus 0 minus. This is an oscillation. 0 plus 0 minus 0 plus 0 minus is an oscillation. 1 per second, 2 per second. That was the number of oscillations in a pendulum clock. Supposing in a pendulum clock, 0 to plus is some magnitude and 0 to minus is only up to this and comes back. Z, 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 z. Will it run? It will stop in few seconds. For the clock to run continuously, this movement is required. Also, after some time, supposing, zip, 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 stops. What are the two important things you see? 0 to plus magnitude should always be there. 0 to minus magnitude should always be there and forever. Otherwise, the clock would stop. Atomic clocks are, of course, are today modern clocks, and atomic clocks are the most accurate clocks that are available in the world today. Types of watches that we have. If you have, this is an analog watch. It's an analog watch. The word analog in the watch business we use for display. The display is by hour hand, minute hand, and second hand. If the display is by hands, it's called analog. If you use the digits to display, it's a digital watch. There are many watches where combinational features are available. Analog is big, digital is small. We call that as ana-digi watches. The digital display is big, analog display is small. Small analog, big digital. It's a digi-ana. So when you hear these words, analog, digital, ana-digi, digi-ana, this really is the meaning. Mechanical watch is fascinating technology. In mechanical watch, you have both hand wound and automatic watches. In my childhood days, which was 1970 plus 70 to 80, there was no quartz watch at all. It was all mechanical watches. The company which used to manufacture that time was HMT. The watches were named after Pilot, Newton, and people would stand in queue to buy these watches. So it was only mechanical that time. It lost its momentum. Quartz watch came big time, but thereafter mechanical watch has come back, but in a fascinating manner. The machine inside the watch is called movement. The movement has a designated caliber number. Like in an engine, like in a car, the engine has a certain number, movement has a caliber number. For example, in movements, you have plain 3 hands movement, date movement, day-date movement, date at 6 o'clock, multifunction, calendar by day, date by hand, chronograph, many features and many functions. So, to understand this easily, case, dial, crown, movement inside bracelet, hands and crown. The outside parts, what you can see in watches, it is called appearance parts. The movement is not visible to you unless it is a mechanical movement, where at the back we provide a transparency. You can actually see the balance wheel moving, etc. You can see that interaction. Inside of a watch looks like it has so many parts, so many components. We manufacture movements ourselves. There are very few in the world who can manufacture movements. Manufacturing movement is a unbelievable, unattainable, almost impossible technology today in the current world. Everybody can make a movement, but a movement like what I said, 0 plus 0 minus. But if there is a movement 0 plus 0 half minus, then it is not a movement, it will stop. So good, accurate, reliable movements. Imagine a refrigerator actually stops somewhere and then again is on. The fan you will put off many times. AC you put off many times. The car takes rest. Your legs take rest. Everybody takes rest except your heartbeat. It cannot afford to take rest. Watches also. The watches won't stop. 24 hours, 360 days. Even if when you are sleeping, the watch has to run. So when you have to make a movement to run like this, it has to be reliable. What is horography and what is horology? Horology is the science of measuring time. Horography is an engineering part used to construct the instruments and devices to measure the time. But in our industry, watch industry, we don't use the word horography. We use the word watch. We use the word alarm, chronograph, clocks, etc. Dust, air and water. It is very important to provide ability in a watch to resist water entry. This is called water resistant. If you see your watches, on the back cover, there is a marking, water resistant, 3 ATM, 5 ATM, there is no 4 ATM, 3 ATM, 5 ATM, 10 ATM, 10 ATM is 100 meters. 1 ATM is equal to 10 meters of depth under water. When we say 3 ATM, 30 meters under the water surface, if the watch is kept, the watch should not have the water entry. Water is the biggest enemy to the watch. If there is water entry into the watch, it is a disaster. The parts will get destroyed. Sweat resistance is possible. Dust resistance is possible. Occasionally, if you spill coffee or if you wash your hand, is okay. But you can't swim, you can't dive at 3 ATM. At 5 ATM, same thing. You can walk in light drizzle, you can walk in rain, you can all that. But you can't drive scooter in rain. The pressure is very, very high. If you want to have swimming and diving into a swimming pool, 100 meters water is 10 ATM. 20 ATM will allow you sea diving. So this is a very important thing in the watch industry. It is not the marking, it is the ability for the watch to resist. Higher the water resistance, normally higher is the thickness of the watch. Because in order to provide water leakage, no, you have to provide gaskets in the watch. It is about seal. The moment you provide seal, you need to provide space for the seal. So when you see 200 meters, 100 meters water resistant watches, they're big, but really capable of sea diving and swimming. In a pendulum, I told you 1 oscillation per second. In mechanical watches, it will be 5 oscillations per second, 6 oscillations per second, 8, 10 oscillations per second. Higher is the accuracy. Because from the number of oscillations when you divide into unit second, higher the oscillations, the accuracy of the final pulse is much higher. The number of oscillations is 32,768 times per second. You can't imagine the number of oscillations. Accuracy is, in a mechanical watch, is 5 to 10 seconds per day. In a quartz watch, the oscillation higher. Accuracy plus or minus 15 seconds per month is the. And there are also quartz watches. at oscillation of 4.19 megahertz, the accuracy is 3 seconds per year. There is the ultimate clock in the world is atomic clock. The accuracy of this clock is 1 second in 3000 years. You have to live to check whether this accuracy is true or not, but it's by computation. This is the most accurate timepiece in the world. I now want to explain to you some complications. And when we talk about complications, we don't talk about complications in a quartz watch. Mobile, quartz watch, they are relatively easy to manufacture. A lot of things is electronics. An IC will do hundreds of things. In a mechanical watch, everything has to be done by a component. That is fascinating. When I say complication, have a look at this complication. Can you look at the kind of parts here? This probably has more than 340 parts. To assemble this movement, in my estimate, even after 6 months training, probably 1 out of 1000 will assemble. Whether it will run or not, I can't say. It is that complicated, this assembly. Imagine how to manufacture this. And these have to be manufactured exactly with that profile. This is a fascinating complication. You can see this. All of us know toy. Toy? A key. Then you turn the key, zik, 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 then it stops. After that, you let the toy go. Zing, it will go. It will go up to some distance and stop there. The reason why it stops is when you wind the toy, the spring is wound, it stores some energy. This energy is released. That is why the toy moves. We all understand this. Imagine a watch is a toy and you wind it. You wind a mechanical one. Energy is stored. You leave it, in 1 second the watch stops. That is the technology. That is, you wind it, store the energy, slowly release this energy for the watch to run for 24 hours, 80 hours, 90 hours. Our hand has to rotate at a different speed. The minute hand at a different speed. The second hand at a different speed. So the wheels on which you have fixed these hands, they have to rotate at different speeds. The different speeds are attained by the gear train. The gear train are rotated through the energy that is being released. Exact hours, exact minute, exact second is by regulation and by the balance wheel. In order for the watch to run, you need an energy source, mainspring. You need energy source. You need the energy transmission source, gear train. You need this energy to be converted into a regulating oscillation, escapement mechanism. You need an oscillator to regulate the frequency, balance wheel. You need a display mechanism to show time. In a quartz movement, in a quartz watch, similarly, you have an energy source, you have an oscillator, you have a converter, regulator, transmission, display. In case of quartz watch, the energy does not come from winding, it comes from battery. There is a step motor and an electronic circuit board, ECB. They convert the oscillation into pulses. The pulse will convert the wheels to move, rotation happens, and thereafter dial and display and hands. Modern day mechanical watches have reserve power. You wind one day, 48 hours, 72 hours, 15 days the energy is stored. They are very expensive, fantastic mechanical watches where once you wind, it will store energy for so many days, like a capacitor. In the balance wheel, today in expensive Swiss watches, a mechanism called tourbillon has come. Tourbillon will provide protection from gravity to the balance wheel. They believe that even if you have encased the watch, the balance wheel rotates under gravity. So accuracy will come down. So there is a tourbillon. It is a casing of the balance wheel and it does not have any gravity and therefore the accuracy would improve. They are very, very expensive, but it's quite an invention. A perpetual calendar can track day, date, month, year, leap year, century, millennium, everything. You just have to set the day date once. For hundreds of years you don't have to. It will track any date, any year, actually up to century. Can you believe in a mechanical watch this can happen? Repeaters. It depends on how many times you want to hear the chime of the hour, minute. And you want to have different chimes, dun 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 is one. Next one is dun 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 dun, you can. And for hour you can say dun dun. So in the same watch, you can have an hour repeater, minute repeater, you can have a quarterly hour chime, you can have 5-minute repeater. There are some crazy movements and watches where every minute there is a chime. I imagine the complication that would have gone into this. Moon phase watch. All of you know new moon and full moon. On a new moon day it's dark because there is no light falling on the moon. On a full moon day it is the brightest. From new moon day to full moon day, when that 15-day journey starts, the process is called waxing. Waxing, it's a very fashionable word. It's the moon starts getting the light. Some surface of the moon gets lit, the right hand surface. After the full moon day, actually the light goes off. That is called waning. And the left side of the moon will be lit, but gradually it will become new moon day. New moon day, waxing, full moon, waning, new moon. This phase is indicated by a beautiful moon phase dial in a watch. Hand wound watch. I told you about the hand wound watch. You just have to wind the crown. Zr, 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 zr. It will never break. Automatic watch, it's a self, there is a rotor. Your hand movement is enough for the watch to run. Slim watches. It is an art to make slim watches. It's not easy to make a slim movement. A watch is normally 6 to 9 millimeter in thickness. That's normal watch. 32 to 46 millimeter diameter is a normal watch. In that space, to make a slim watch, it has to be out of the world. Piaget has the slimmest watch in the world in mechanical watch, in the mechanical side. Swiss is the motherland of watches. Next is Japan. The Titan has the slimmest quartz watch in the world. It is 1.15 millimeter, called the Edge watch. So far in 15 years time, nobody has been able to replicate this watch. It is a water resistant watch. It has sapphire glass. It's a marvel. This watch, Maxonic Tourbillon. The watch price is $500,000. This is again a tourbillon watch, $650,000. This is a Nightingale watch with many functions, many alarms, many repeaters, $650,000 US. This is a tourbillon with sapphire glass, and this won't be manufactured in millions. Horology has this much value with the discerning consumers who have the knowledge, who can understand the value of these timepieces. Mechanical watches by value, they hold the lion's share of the world watch industry. Quartz by volume, they have the lion's share. This is how the pieces are made. Titan makes 16 million watches. Many times you hear about jewels in watches. 17 jewels, 21 jewels. These are all synthetic ruby materials. In a watch, a jewel is required in a mechanical watch for the wheels, pivots not to get worn out, or the bridges should not get worn out. So they are all functional jewels. Natural ruby is very, very expensive. So synthetic ruby, it's actually aluminum oxide. It's actually white in color, but it's a synthetic ruby, red in color, natural color, but synthetic. They are used for functioning purposes in the watch. 17 jewels, 21 jewels. When somebody says my watch has 73 jewels, it has no meaning. 21, that's all you can use in a watch. But extremely complicated watches with so many, you can use 10 more. But beyond this, it will be on the dial or it will be ornamental. In the world, there are two types of watch manufacturing process. One is the one that I showed you, handcrafting art, 1 million, 2 million per piece, collector piece. The other one is fashion accessory space. Fashion accessory, long back, when you define watch as a fashion accessory, then you will start wearing the watch fitting the occasion. You will gift it to your father, that is a different watch. You will wear it when you go for jogging, that's a very different watch. Smart watches. Recently, a lot of buzz is on smart watches. Apple Watch, Pebble Watch, Data Watch, Samsung Galaxy. So, the smart watches in many ways everybody is saying, what is this smartwatch? Many of you know this. Current smartwatches are smaller version of the mobile phone. They are on the wrist and they are companions to mobile phone. They get notifications, but it's a phase when these watches are going through the initial development introduction phase. So smartwatches probably will also occupy some space. When you have a mobile, for example, you have a Samsung or iPhone 6. There is no identity. It's an iPhone 6, or if you are, it's only Samsung phone, Samsung S3, S4, whatever. So watch has occupied a very fascinating and beautiful space in human's life. Future of watches, therefore, it is said that smartwatches will occupy some space, the traditional watches will continue, mechanical watches, the complications that I explained are unbelievably continue. It's my pet subject, so I spoke. Thanks.